Hi, this is Reapso Video, and I'm Theodore Ross. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Food and Environment Reporting Network, which we like to call FERN because Sequoia was taken. At FERN, we drop new audio on our podcast platform once a month. So if you're looking for great in-depth reporting from the front lines of food, farming, and the environment, check out Reapso. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we just dropped a news story at Reapso, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It starts in the early 1900s when Los Angeles, much like today, was running out of water. It happened to be that there was water in the state, in the eastern Sierra Mountains, in an area that's known as Owens Valley, or in the language of the Numu people who lived there, the land of flowing water. Now, when the officials in Los Angeles learned about this water up in the eastern Sierra, they hatched a plan to take that water away. And that plan worked a little bit too well because today, about a third of Los Angeles water comes from the Owens Valley and other parts of the eastern Sierra. And the streams and lakes in that land of the flowing water, they're basically gone. So I'm here with FERN staff writer Teresa Cotsirilos because she just did a deep dive on the water rights fight in the Owens Valley and how Indigenous people there in that part of California may just have come upon a way to resolve this conflict. Teresa, welcome. Thanks for coming to Reapso, which is admittedly part of your job here at FERN, but I'm glad you're here anyway.
And I'm still happy to be here anyway.
Okay, good. So this is the first installment of Reapso, but it's going to work the same way every time. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about your reporting, and then I'll say thank you when you give me a fantastic answer. That makes sense?
Sure. Yes.
All right. So let's jump in. So why this story? What brought you to report on this particular story right now?
You know, I was drawn to this story because a recent archaeological discovery could potentially upend a 170-year dogfight over the water in this valley. The long and short of it is that the Numu people who have lived in Owens Valley, also known as Payahunadu, since time immemorial, were sophisticated agriculturalists with a complex irrigation system that may have spanned as much as 60 square miles of the valley floor. Numu traditional knowledge and, more recently, an archaeological discovery have confirmed that this system predates Western contact and Numu contact with their colonizers. And because of this, and because of some of the strange nuances of California water rights law, some Indigenous advocates believe that the Numu might actually have a stronger claim to this water than Los Angeles does in California's water rights system.
Well, that's pretty heavy stuff. Thank you. So tell me, what was the biggest obstacle to your reporting? What was the thing that got in your way the most?
It was a challenging story, but it was definitely getting to the Owens Valley. In good weather, I live a 5-hour drive from Owens Valley, also known as Payahunadu. However, this valley is quite isolated. It is deep in the eastern Sierra Mountains. It is near Mount Whitney, which gives you a good idea of how formidable the mountains around this valley are. And because of a series of scheduling issues, I had to report this story in early December. So it took me a day and a half to get to this valley. This trip involved crashing at a strange motel in like a 400-person mountain town. It involved a really solid assist from a woman with a smoker's voice named Barb, who was like helping me out with the chains on the Jeep pickup truck that I had to drive through the snowed over mountain passes in order to get there. I may as well have been reporting on a story on the other side of the world.
Right.
And so that was probably the most challenging part.
As your editor, I just want to send a special thank you to Barb. Thank you for your assistance in this case.
Story wouldn't have happened without Barb.
That's right. And the last question. Your reporting on this is really rich and complex and fantastic. But if there's one takeaway from this story that you'd like people to come away with, what would it be?
I'm afraid there's 2. One is that this is an infamous historical moment that a lot of people think they understand, and we don't. The Indigenous perspective on this story has really been left out of overarching narratives. The Owens Valley Los Angeles conflict has been made famous by movies like Chinatown, for instance. Those movies leave the Indigenous perspective on what happened out of it completely. That's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two is that California's water rights system, which is really one of the main characters in this story, is there's frankly a very good argument that it should be reformed. This system still quietly determines who has power in California and who doesn't. It has not been reformed that substantially in recent years. And the sources I talked to for this story made a very compelling case that this system is structurally and historically racist, and it does continue to discriminate against Indigenous peoples in the state in its own way.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Teresa. I said I was going to ask you 3 questions and then say thank you, and that's what I've done. And for you folks out there in video land, if you want to listen to the full story, and you should, check it out at ReapSo. Or you can go to our amazing partners at the California Report magazine, who we partnered with on the podcast. Shout out to Sasha Coca and all the good folks we worked with at KQED. We'll be back in a month with our next interview, and I hope you'll be here too. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about FERN, or if you want to donate to support our work, go to www.thefern.org. Thanks very much.